Wait there, Lucille. Loud.
Welcome back to Sarge's Hotline. This is where drivers bring the questions, and I give you the best answer I can based on a whole lot of years behind the wheel in operations, safety, recruiting, and dealing with this industry from just about every side of the desk. We've got 5 drivers on the line today. We're talking about comparing pay, dealing with dispatch, figuring out which driving job is actually right for you, what home weekends really means, and why 1 month of experience can sometimes make a big difference. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's get to the phones. Our first caller is Backroad out of Shreveport, Louisiana. 6 years behind the wheel, running regional dry van. Backroad, you're on Sarge's Hotline.
Sarge, I got offered more cents per mile somewhere else. How do I know if I'd actually make more money?
Backroad, this is where drivers can get hypnotized by a shiny number. A higher cents per mile rate does not automatically mean a bigger paycheck. If you're making 55 cents a mile and consistently running 2,700 miles a week, you're grossing $1,485 from mileage. Somebody offers you 60 cents a mile and it sounds better. But if you're only getting 2,300 miles over there, that's $1,380. Congratulations, you got a raise and lost $100 a week. That's why I tell drivers to stop comparing cents and start comparing compensation. Ask what drivers in that operation are realistically averaging per week. How many miles are they actually running? Is there detention pay, layover pay, breakdown pay, stop pay? Are there bonuses, and are those bonuses realistically obtainable? Then look at how consistent the freight is. One company might give you a beautiful week followed by 2 lousy ones. Another might not have the highest mileage rate, but the paycheck looks almost the same every Friday. Consistency has value. And don't forget unpaid time. If one job has you sitting around docks for hours without compensation while another pays detention, that matters. If you're constantly losing miles because there's no freight after you deliver, that matters too. I'm not saying ignore cents per mile. Obviously it matters. I'm saying don't let one number make the decision for you. Before you leave a job for better pay, compare what actually lands on the paycheck over several weeks. Because your mortgage company doesn't care what your cents per mile rate is. They care whether the check clears. Thanks for the call, Backroad. Next up, we've got Blue Ridge out of Roanoke, Virginia. 11 years experience running OTR reefer. Blue Ridge, what have you got?
Sarge, my dispatcher and I just don't get along. When do you quit trying to make it work?
Blue Ridge, before you quit trying, figure out exactly what isn't working. Because I don't like my dispatcher and my dispatcher isn't doing the job are 2 completely different problems. I've been on both sides of this one. Sometimes you've got a dispatcher who doesn't communicate, doesn't plan ahead, forgets what you told them, or keeps putting you in situations that cost you time and money. That's a legitimate problem. But sometimes you've got 2 people who just communicate differently. The driver thinks dispatch is being short with him. Dispatch thinks the driver complains about everything. After a few weeks, every message gets interpreted in the worst possible way. Now you've got a feud nobody officially declared. Before I'd leave a decent driving job over one dispatcher, I'd have a direct conversation, not an argument. Explain specifically what's happening. I've missed 3 home time requests. I've sat after my last 4 deliveries waiting for another load. I'm having trouble getting answers when there's a problem. Specific problems can be addressed. My dispatcher is an idiot, doesn't give anybody much to work with. If you've tried communicating, the same problems continue, and it's affecting your pay, home time, or ability to do the job, then talk to whoever supervises that operation. Give them an opportunity to fix it. And if you've done all that and nothing changes, then you've got a decision to make. Just don't throw away an otherwise good job because you and one person aren't going to exchange Christmas cards. You don't have to like your dispatcher. You do have to be able to work together. Appreciate the call, Blue Ridge. Let's head down to Amarillo, Texas. Sidewinder has 3 years experience and runs flatbed. Sidewinder, you're up.
Sarge, every trucking job says they're the best. How am I supposed to figure out which one is actually better?
Sidewinder, first thing I'd do is quit asking which company is the best. There isn't one. There's only a job that's better or worse for what you need. A driver who wants to stay out 3 weeks and run hard has different priorities from somebody with 2 kids who needs to be home every weekend. So before you start comparing jobs, decide what matters to you. How often do you need to be home? What kind of freight do you want to haul? Where are you willing to run? Are you comfortable with driver unload, multiple stops, night driving, slip seating, or whatever else comes with that particular operation? Then start asking specific questions. Don't ask, do you have good home time? Everybody has good home time when the question is that vague. Ask, how many days am I normally out, and how many full days will I normally be home? Don't ask, do you have good equipment? Ask what trucks are normally assigned to drivers on that operation, and what happens if yours goes down. Ask where the freight runs. Ask whether the account is dedicated or whether freight can change. Ask about typical length of haul. Ask whether there is driver unload, touch freight, multiple stops, or unusual scheduling requirements. Ask what a normal week actually looks like. And here's another one drivers sometimes forget. Ask yourself whether you're actually willing to do the job they're describing. I've talked to drivers who applied for regional work and then didn't want to leave their state. Drivers who applied for OTR and wanted to be home every weekend. Drivers who applied for touch freight and then said they didn't want to touch freight. At some point, we've got to read the menu before ordering dinner. A recruiter can tell you about the opportunity. Your responsibility is to listen carefully enough to decide whether that opportunity fits your life. The best trucking job isn't the one with the prettiest advertisement. It's the one where the reality of the job matches what you actually want and are willing to do. Good question, Sidewinder. Our fourth caller is Night Shift out of Indianapolis, Indiana. 14 years experience, running dedicated. Night Shift, let's hear it.
Sarge, they say I'm home every weekend, but lately I'm getting home Saturday afternoon. Does that really count?
Night Shift, you just stumbled into one of my favorite trucking vocabulary lessons. Home every weekend. What exactly does that mean? Because if you get home Saturday at 4 in the afternoon and leave again Sunday night, somebody somewhere can technically point at Saturday and Sunday on a calendar and say, see, weekend. You probably had something different in mind. This is why I tell drivers that phrases like home weekly, home weekends, and even home daily don't tell you everything you need to know. You need to ask what the schedule actually looks like. What day do drivers normally get home? What time? When do they normally leave again? Is the home time predictable? And most importantly, in your situation, was Saturday afternoon what you were told to expect when you took the job? Because trucking happens. Freight gets delayed. Customers hold you up. Weather happens. Loads fall apart. One bad weekend doesn't mean somebody lied to you. But if you were regularly getting home Friday and now you're regularly getting home Saturday afternoon, that's a pattern. That's when I'd have the conversation. Not, you people lied to me. Try, when I accepted this position, my understanding was that I'd normally be home Friday. Lately, I'm not getting home until Saturday afternoon. Has something changed with the operation? Now you've asked a question they can actually answer. Maybe freight changed. Maybe dispatch changed. Maybe something temporary is happening. Or maybe the job has changed. Then you decide whether the new reality still works for you. Home time isn't just about how many nights you sleep in your own bed. It's about whether you can actually have a life while you're there. Thanks, Night Shift. We've got one more caller today. Driftwood is calling from Tulsa, Oklahoma. 5 months experience and currently running OTR. Driftwood, you're on the hotline.
Sarge, I've got 5 months experience. Why does everybody keep telling me I need 6 months?
Driftwood, I understand why that's frustrating. You've got 5 months experience, somebody wants 6. You're thinking, what am I magically going to learn over the next 30 days? Probably not enough to suddenly transform you into a completely different driver. But that's not really what the requirement means. When a company says 6 months experience, that requirement may be tied to their hiring standards, the type of freight they're hauling, customer requirements, insurance considerations, or simply the experience level they've decided they're willing to accept. And the recruiter you're talking to usually can't just erase that requirement because you're close. 5 months isn't 6 months. I know that sounds ridiculous when you're only a few weeks away, but you've got something working in your favor. You're only a few weeks away. This is where new drivers sometimes hurt themselves. They get 4 or 5 months into their first driving job, get frustrated about something, and start jumping around trying to find something better. Then they discover a lot of the jobs they want require 6 months. So they quit the job that was giving them the experience they needed before they actually reached the requirement. If your current job is safe, workable, and you're continuing to build verifiable tractor-trailer experience, I'd be very careful about disrupting that over another month. Get your 6 months, then keep going. Because 6 months can open more doors, and 12 months can open even more. Your first year isn't necessarily about finding the perfect trucking job. Sometimes it's about building enough experience that you finally have some choices. And one more thing, keep that record clean while you're building it. Experience doesn't help nearly as much if you're collecting preventable accidents, job abandonment, or a string of 3-month jobs along the way. You're closer than you think, Driftwood. Keep building. Thanks for calling. That's going to wrap up this episode of Sarge's Hotline. And if there was one common thread running through these calls today, it's this. Pay attention to what the job actually is, not just what it sounds like. A bigger cents per mile number doesn't guarantee a bigger paycheck. One bad relationship with dispatch doesn't automatically mean you need another company. The best job doesn't exist unless it fits what you actually need. Home weekends doesn't mean much until you know when you're getting home. And sometimes the smartest career move is staying where you are long enough to build the experience that'll give you better options later. If you've got a trucking question you'd like to hear answered on a future episode of Sarge's Hotline, drop it in the comments. And if you're new around here, subscribe and stick around. We've got a whole lot more trucking to talk about. Until next time, drive safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you at the next truck stop.
Wait here, you. Loud.